Hi everyone, this is Turin Khan from TK3D Prints. I'd like to introduce you to the public beta for the Lychee Slicer version 3.1.9. I'm using this currently for the mono range of the Anycubic printers. Highly recommend it if you're a mono user or a photon user. It will also be able to select other printers, so if you find this of some use, you're more than welcome. One thing I will note, for the Pro version you will need to subscribe to their actual service. During the current beta you're not charged. I think you get it for 30 days, but you can renew it. So yeah, download the version that you've got. In my case it was the Windows 64-bit. It'll come up with this. I think it actually asks you at the beginning of the installation to select the printer that you're using, but in case it hasn't, we'll just go up to the printer icon. Then you would click add, select the company that you're using the printer from, and then just click on the icon that you want to bring in, and that will add it to your systems here. Again, I'm using the Photon Mono. To adjust the settings, we've got to click onto the cog here. These are currently the settings that I am using, but if you want the default settings, click on the reset to default settings up there. I'll basically go through it quickly for those that are new to 3D printing. You can click on the info icons, but basically the burn-in layers is the exposure is usually higher to actually burn it to your build plate to get it to stick. I have it set for 5, I think the default is 6. And I think the cure time default is 20, whereas mine is 35. I find this is a good balance for my machine. You may be fine with 20, or you may need to dial it up higher. So if your prints aren't sticking to the build plate, increase it by 5. So if you've got 20, try 25, and if that doesn't work, try 30, then 35. I find 35 works very well for my machine. Your normal layers, these are the layers that you're slicing. Your default is set for 50 ohms. By clicking on here, you can select the different types that you want. I click on the millimeters, so that would be 0.05, whereas on yours it would be marked as 50 ohms. I have this set of 0.09, which is quite thick for a layer, but I actually print models that are over 100 millimeters tall. I find increased thickness of layers, the taller you print, it doesn't really deter the detail. So you know, for an example, for miniatures that I usually print below 40 millimeters in height, I will use 0.03 millimeters. For figures that are up to 80 millimeters in height, I'll use 0.06 millimeters. And for figures over 80 millimeters tall, I'll use 0.09. And the default light off delay is 1. The higher the light off delay is, the longer it is off, and therefore it gives it a better chance to cool down between layers. Since I am using 0.09, I either have that set to 0 or leave it at 1. For 0.09 layer height, I tend to use a 2-second cure time for each layer. If I was doing 0.03, I would use maybe 1.5 or 1.7 seconds. And my lift speed is 6. My print speed is actually set to 4, whereas the default I think is 1. And my lowering speed is 6 as well. I think that was 4 on the actual defaults, I can't remember. To select the price for your bottles, you can adjust it here, and simplify mode button allows you to switch between the two. So those are my default settings. So what we want to do is actually add a file. I'm about to import Dr. Jekyll from last month's Arch Villain collection, an excellent Patreon to join up with. I'll actually include a link to their My Mini Factory Patreon page, and you can have a view on their items. Each month they come out with a different selection. I've been with them now for 3 months and I've been very happy with the prints they've done. So anyway, this is our basic model that's already loaded in. So we can use the select to select the icon model. So if we had multiple prints here, we could select them then. Move allows you to move around X, Y, Z. Rotate allows you to rotate the actual print if you wish to. I tend to actually print all my prints directly off the build plate, basically because I will be printing larger and it's just easier, and once you've got the supports coming directly from underneath the model, it makes for an easier cleanup. And the print speeds that we're getting on the mono range, there's no real need these days to tilt your prints backwards. So anyway, we've got scale that allows you to adjust the scale, which I'll do afterwards. I can make multiple copies. And it will add them there, and then automatically arrange the bed as best as it thinks it can be. Which is basically what the arranger does anyway. If I click on that, I'll try and find the best solution. As you can see there. And if you wanted to, you can click on mirror. This is handy if you've got characters and you want to give an impression of more characters, so you can use like say like you've got an orc with a shield on your left arm and a sword in your right. You can mirror it, and therefore you've got another character now, but with a shield in the right arm and then the blade in the left hand, as you can see I've just done here. So that's handy. It can give you multiple characters if you're printing large amounts out. Orientate print. That will adjust the print as best as it thinks for adding supports. Again, I don't use this option. Simply because I print directly off the bed, so I don't need that. On the plate is a very good one. You click on the face that you want and it will automatically align to the build plate. This can be anywhere on the actual print and it will try and select as close to the build plate as it can. So I'll click on there again. Green's letting you know that the actual print is directly on the build plate. If you can see blue, then that part isn't on the build plate. I really have no idea what this is. And measuring allows you to measure from point A to point B. Alright, I'll actually select a load of these now and then delete them, but before I do that, you've got your objects list here. You can either switch them on or off. All I have options here to do things like auto update is off from that. But now I've got them all selected, I can now hit the delete and it will remove them from the list. So I'll just bring this with arrange directly into the middle of the plate, and then I will actually scale this model up. Right, as you can see here, we've got areas that are double banded. This is letting us know that this is actually outside the print area. If you don't adjust it, it'll eventually turn red. And so now what I'll do is rotate the object so it's all in the bed, and then just bring it in a little bit just to make sure. More. I'm actually going to shrink it down a little bit just to make sure I've got space for supports and that. Right, as we can see here, we've got some areas that aren't actually attached to the bed. So what I'll do is I'll use the move and just drag it down a little bit until we we get the double blue lines, and that's letting me know basically that that's out of the build area, and therefore it won't be printed, which is ideal. Just move that up a little bit more. Fine. Okay, we've got two ways of adding supports. If you're totally new to the actual 3D printing and you're not sure, you've got the magic icon over here. Now, I have the auto orientation actually turned off. I have auto supports on, optimize supports on. What this will do is after it's auto generated, it will try and tree the supports so that it's only coming off one pillar and then spreads out towards the actual area that it's supporting. Bracing supports will do cross beams in between them support pillars. And I turn rafts off because I don't need them. I'm printing directly onto the build plate. You've got options for light, medium and heavy supports, and then just click I'm feeling lucky when you're ready, and that's what we'll do. And there you go. And now you can actually edit these supports by simply clicking on the support, and then you can just click anywhere on the actual print to add the new supports. I would certainly insist on areas like these arms, which are going to be floating. This white line shows you the slice layer, so basically that whole arm is going to be free standing until it actually attaches to the body. And the same with this lamp, it's going to be freestanding until it attaches to the body up here. So I would normally increase the amount of supports around the actual objects like this. If it shows red, it means the angle is too great. If it shows grey, it means it's ready to put down. And once you've added a load more supports, because these are just straight down, as you can tell, we then click onto the parent icon, which will now analyze the supports that we've got and join the two together, as you can see there, and it's optimized 11 supports here. And now we can just click on bracing, and that will add the braces to the supports. Now these supports are very easy to manipulate and adjust. It's like I don't want any of these actually on the base, because these are actually the base pads and they're sticking into the print. So if this was like here, I would then just hold on that support and just drag it away from the base, like here as well. But none of these are actually needed, so I would just select them and then click delete on the actual keyboard to delete them. But to move them about, you can just click anywhere. Most of the time anyway. What's going on here? Why isn't it? Ah, there we go. Click and hold and move. Wasn't actually on the support tip, that's why. You have to hold the bottom part, then you can move it. Now, this micro thin support that you can see here, to achieve that, for areas like, say, like here, you may not want to have a large support like this there because it's too close to the mold. So what you do is you select it, so highlight it, and then click micro support, and then it will convert it into a thin support. Now, these are ideal for layers like this, or little gaps you may come across, say like here. it'll sometimes automatically do it, so you can add them. Now don't worry, these are very thin, you'll hardly see them. If you were brushing this miniature up afterwards with a toothbrush to clean it with IPA, it would basically remove that instantly. They're not needed here though, in these areas, because as you can tell, it's already on top of each layer. So that's a quick way of adding supports if you're new to the system. And if you want to add and delete, just select the support and click delete. To hollow your print, which is mainly used for very large objects like this, to save resin and reduce the suction, click on the hollow icon and it will show this as a solid white block. So then, like this, basically stating it will be printed solid, so you'd use the infill slider to select like 15%, and it'll do a structure inside and basically builds internal supports. This is brilliant because in between these it's got the gaps and it allows all the resin to run down. You'll get no pockets or anything like that. You've got different choices, so you've got lattice or double lattice. I tend to leave it as a lattice, and you can click on add holes and that will come over here. So you've got your hole diameter there and the percent it actually penetrates the actual print. So I'll actually increase that to 3 point something to 5, and you need these holes very close to the build plate, even if you've got it on supports and the actual print isn't on. Holes need to be some of the first things that need to be printed. This allows air straight into the actual print and reduces suction on the build plate. Now if I use this scroller here, as you can see there's our infill, and this here is the hole. I might actually dial down that infill, but the reason for the infill is, as you go about to see, well, it should get some minus just here. These would stick to your FEP sheet if they didn't have the infill on, so it's a good option to have on. And as you can see there, it's building up through. Because the actual foot for the character is here, we've only just got, that hole's going to be quite small for letting the air flow in. And I think the other one is just here somewhere. So we're just going to scan up through that and check. Yes, that actually connects as well, and the hole passes up through the legs. Because this would be the first part that prints, air sucks in, and it just makes life a lot easier. I will actually add another hole just there. And that will allow airflow a little bit better inside. Plus it's actually hidden behind the actual prints and nobody can see it whilst it's printing. It's just a double insurance with the air. And with a large hole down here, it makes it easier to flush the actual inside of the actual hollow as well with IPA or whichever cleaning agent that you're using to actually remove your resin. Right, so now that the hollow's been added and the holes have been added, you can save out or export your actual print. So that's import, or import recently, export, or export selected. Then you've got preview, I like this one because it gives you an idea of scale of what it's going to look like to a banana and the lychee cola, and on a cutting mat. And then you've got the simulator, and it'll actually show you as you slide down how it's actually going to print from the vat like this. Or you can view it as slice, per the slice, by scrolling up and down. Also like to point out the actual screen. Estimated print time, 2 hours and 3 minutes. Or we can have a look at the slice through the actual print itself, and then the default one, which is here. And then you would click on export to slice, and this is how you actually adjust your settings with the anti-aliasing. There are other options. You can have it as none, blur, and stroke blur. I've not actually used these two. I don't really see the point. I'll have to do some experiments. It might be handy for large objects with flat curves with no details on. So that might work a little bit better. But for characters with details on them, I don't think it would work very well. I prefer to use the anti-aliasing, and I'll set that to 8. And then just basically click on the export, because we're actually selected as PMO. Insert your USB card into your machine. You'll get an advert. Click continue. It doesn't make you watch anything. And then select the USB stick that you've got, and then click save, and it'll run through the actual slicing and give you an idea visually of what it will look like per slice. Now I'll go ahead and I'll just cancel this, and then I'll just go back to the actual support system, and let me just reset the view and select the model, and then I will delete all the supports, and now I'll show you the other way of doing the supports, because the Magic system is quite a basic, quick at the mill, quick setup. You can still use auto-generated supports on this, but it's a little bit more better than the supports over here. So you've got your global settings, which the Magic will use. I prefer myself to actually edit my supports, so what I would do is select the light and then go for the tip. I'll leave the breakpoint as 0. The length, that's the actual tip. If I just add one here, that length of 2mm is this part here, and the penetration I have set to 10, so that means that very tip will actually enter the model for 0.1mm, and I have the tip diameter actually set for 34, just to expand it a little bit more. My middles is set for 1 1mm thick here, all the way down to the thing, and because the actual support here at the moment is attached to there, it'll use the base tip, and again I'll set the penetration to 10. And that's how much the tip will go into the ground. Now if the support is anywhere there, and then I'll just grab the tip and bring it to here, then the base support here, I think the default's from like 6. I've changed mine to just below 4 mils. I don't bother with that, and the thickness is the actual thickness of the layer there, because my first 5 layers are actually going to be the ones that are burned in. There's no point having it too thick. So yeah, that's how that you adjust your tips. You can do the same as well for the medium and the heavy. The style will let you know that they're lit up. Again, if you wanted to adjust, you can hold down the shift and select multiple supports, or you can actually click and drag and it will select all the supports, and then you could click on, say, like edit the diameter, and that will adjust the diameter for all the ones that you've got selected. So this setup here will give you much more editing with the actual supports. So we'll do generated automatic supports. I tend to leave the supports as normal, and I've adjusted the search for ground at 3.5 millimeters. So that'll analyse the actual print itself, and it'll add the supports where it sees fit. So it's just letting me know now it's done. 236 supports were added, 29 supports were not placed due to not being able to find a place to support them. 5 islands supports added, 1 island supports were not placed due to it couldn't find a place to attach it. 76 supports were optimised, and 376 bracings were added. Now the bracings are these. Now, again, I don't need all these ones on the bottom, and they're all in the way anyway, so I'll hold the shift key down and just select a load of them. Right mouse button, by the way, to rotate the bed, and middle button on your mouse to move it up and down, left and right, and obviously the whole click and select for the supports. Let's just run through these again. Hit the delete key. As you'll notice, some of these support pillars are actually larger than 1 millimeter. That's due to the optimization. If we go up to the top here, when it calculates the bracing up here, it will automatically adjust. But again, I need to add more supports to this manually anyway. So I'll just redouble the supports around here. It's not supposed to be 4, it's supposed to be 2. Right, that actually needs to be brought down into the bed. So I need to click onto layout and just bring it down a little bit more. Don't worry, the supports will automatically adjust for you. Yep. So I'm just going to go through here and see which ones we do and don't need. Now, the clip bar over the side is very handy for this. If you're not sure about whether you've got all the key spots done, just by scrolling through any islands that you see floating in the air, you're best off doing this straight from the bottom upwards. So if we were bringing this up, like those internal supports have been done. So as we're scrolling up, any lines like this at the back here, that's floating above, so those need supports, which it's already been done. It's always best to just give it a quick scroll through, just to make sure that you haven't got any spots and islands just floating around doing nothing, because these will be stuck to your fact sheet until they actually connect to a solid part of the model. And I think that's mostly it there. So I'll add more supports around these areas. I know you may be looking at this now and going, oh my god, that's going to be a nightmare to clean up all them supports. A couple of little tips. If you're printing large like this, I tend to use an old hairdryer directly on the print after it's been printed, whilst it's still on the build plate, and you'll find that removing the supports once they've been heated up, they'll peel away so easily off the actual build, the print itself. They'll just crumble away. And so yeah, use a hairdryer to heat up. If you've taken the prints actually off the build plate, you can use hand hot water in a bucket and the supports into that, and that should allow you to then heat up the supports, and they'll easily be removed, and it will leave hardly any markings on your actual prints. So bear in mind to give that one a try. Again, always make sure you're wearing gloves as well whilst you're doing this, and I would also recommend, when removing supports, wearing glasses, some form of safety glasses, because the last thing you actually want is a bit of broken supports flying into your face, especially whilst it's got uncured resin on it. So I'm just running through, as you can see, just checking these little islands, making sure everything's nicely supported. Okay, I'm happy with that. And then I would now go down to parent. So 32 added optimized, and then I'd click on bracing. Then I would go ahead and slice it and save it again, and that should be fine. Also, you have classic and advanced on manual supports and search for islands. Now, when this searches for islands, it will leave a little red mark on all the places that it thinks you should put supports. You can add supports to all them little islands, and it will try its best. it's a good way if you're new to the game and you're just wanting to find all the quick spots, you can do it like that. But I still recommend that manual supports is the way to go, because that way you then get into the habit of double checking everything and making sure everything's actually supported. So that's happy with that. I know it looks a mess with the amount of supports, but believe me, I'll include some photographs of previous prints that I've done showing the supports created and how easy it is to remove the supports, and the fact that they leave hardly any puck marks if you use the hot air method via an old hairdryer or use hot water, handheld hot water in a bucket. And so yeah, I'll just export this and go make sure everything's set up, and then click OK, and then save. I find Lychee slicer to be a good all-round slicer. I've started using it for nearly every print that I do. They're constantly updating it and adding new printers to it. So even if you've not got the Photon and you're using other printers, it's worth downloading and checking it out. There you go. Estimates the time is 2 hours and 3 minutes and 30 seconds. The amount of resin it calculated it's going to use. It won't give me the price because I haven't set anything in. And yeah, so I hope you find this video of some use. It's mainly for new users, the software, just to give you an idea of where everything is and what does what. Check out Arch Filling's Patreon. They've got some excellent figures. Again, it's a new load of figures each month, depending on the price tag that you go for. I know that they do a 5th edition manual that goes with the actual prints that they've done for that month, a game module. So that might be handy if you're playing in the 5th edition. Well worth checking out. If you like the video, please like and subscribe. Leave comments, and any questions, again, fire away in the comments and I'll try and get back to them as soon as possible. So again, thank you for watching. Hope you find this video of some use, and catch you next time.